We're entering a pivotal time in FPL. The last 4 game weeks before the deadline to use your first set of chips is fast approaching. In this video, I'll give you the best options to use your remaining sets of chips so we can maximize and get the most points possible. Welcome to my channel, this FPL Game Week, where I, your host Femi, aka FPL Big Fem, are with you every game week to help you get up the ranks, share strategies and tips, and just try and persist in this crazy game. All right, so let's take a look at when to use our chips. So for me, I do have the free hit chip and the triple captain chip remaining. I know some of us also may have the wildcard chip and bench boost, so I'm gonna go through all the options and really explore when the best time to use these chips would be. So for me, I always had free hit 16 circled on my calendar, and the reason for it is in the following. So Arsenal's at home to Wolves, the worst team in the league, and then Brentford's away to Leeds, another team that doesn't travel well, and then Aston Villa is away to West Ham. So when you look at the first two fixtures, let's focus on Arsenal and Brentford. When you take a look at this chart, you'll see that Wolves and Leeds are the two worst away teams in the league. Between them, in the 14 away games they've played, they have one win. They don't score a lot away from home, and they concede a lot, and they also are in bad form. So all of these things are great reasons why the Arsenal and Brentford assets should be considered. So if you don't have two Arsenal assets in your squad or don't have two Brentford assets in your squad, I would definitely consider, getting a few more. The challenge is who to pick from Arsenal and who to pick from Brentford. So from an Arsenal perspective, there was a lot of rotation in the Champions League game. We had some players coming in. Saka didn't start, so he's a strong captaincy option. He will definitely play. It's just about how many minutes. But my view on this is I don't necessarily think it really matters so much what happened in the Champions League game. Wolves, they don't look like they're playing for much this season. They're a team that was, completely wide open. They, are struggling immensely. There have been no new manager bounce with Rob Edwards. So I would really focus on getting who you think the best Arsenal attacker or attackers are. In my squad, I have Saka and Odegaard, but I know other people maybe are considering maybe like an Eze who didn't play at all in the Champions League squad. It's just a really good opportunity to take a chance to see, who could really put up some big numbers. Defensively, Arsenal is having a lot of injuries, so it's a little bit more of a challenge as to see who to pick there. But obviously, you have White, who's been playing really well since he's come back in the lineup. We have Miles Lewis-Skelly, who probably will feature in this game because Calafiori is unfortunately suspended for this game, and he's in my squad. So you'll have to find another option there. And then Hincapié, who's been playing in Gabriel's absence and been quite good. So those are three strong options on the defensive front to consider from an Arsenal perspective. For Brentford, Thiago, I know he's in a lot of our squads. Top scorer. I know some people even are looking at him as a captaincy shout against Leeds, a team, like I mentioned, that doesn't travel well and has a poor away form. And then I know on the back end, some people have Collins. He's been in my squad for so many weeks. I'm hoping he can get his goal this week because, they have a strong fixture at home. And then in the last grouping, we have West Ham, right? So West Ham, they're the opposite. They're not good at home. So we have them facing Aston Villa, and Aston Villa has won 5 in a row. And if you know, on this channel, I did a video of the 3 Aston Villa assets that I think are about to, do quite well in Watkins, Cash, and Emi Martinez, giving us a forward, goalie, and mid defensive option to consider. And I'm thinking if you need a defender, Cash looks great this week. He has, West Ham away and then a home matchup against Manchester United in the next fixture, with Man U missing some of their offensive stars in Brian Mbumo and Ahmad, who are away to AFCON. So all in all, it looks like a great option to put in because we heard the news that Munoz, and we'll get to him later about some other options to consider in this video as well. So there you have it. There's the rundown of why free hit 16 looks quite good. But for me, I'm also considering maybe I'll save it for free hit 18. Because free hit 18 is quite interesting as well, because we have Liverpool at home to Wolves. So again, you get that Wolves fixture. We have Everton away to Burnley. So another strong fixture for Everton, who have been, in great form in the top 10 and top half of the table and doing quite well. And then the last fixture that isn't necessarily a green fixture according to the FDR, but is one where I think is a strong fixture, is Arsenal at home to Brighton. Brighton plays in these, high scoring matches, and Arsenal's at home, and they've been immaculate, one of the best home records of all teams in the Prem at home this season. So that's one where I think there could be goals, especially for the Arsenal side, and a team that probably at that point in time is a little bit healthier. So you're going to see maybe the offense doing better there. So I also have so that's why in the back of my head I have free hit 18 to consider. Let me know what you guys are probably thinking and on the free hit, but those are the options for when to consider and use your free hit. So when looking at the triple captainship, I think the most safe and rather boring route is to just put it on Haaland if you still have it in game week 17 at home to West Ham. Like I mentioned, West Ham, although they are playing slightly better with Nuno, they are a team to target. And the beauty of West Ham in game week 17 is probably some of their players are out at AFCON, especially in the defense, in Wan-Bissaka and Diouf. So that also makes it a lot more appealing. But I don't think we need too many more reasons where, you have City at home, which is always a strong opportunity for them to take weaker opposition and put in a bunch of goals in. So Haaland looks good there. And, if you're even have Foden, the man of the hour that everyone has, he could also be a really strong consideration, because I know for some people they like to captain a mid over a forward, and I tend to lead that way too. But, just with the form that Haaland's been in this season, he's obviously not a bad shout. And then for bench boost, I think, if you have the free hit and triple captain sorted, you're just going to look at bench boosting in any of the other 4 game weeks remaining. I mean, that's the beauty of these chips. If you had all 4, you could just literally line them up. But if you don't have, all 4 and you have 2 of 4, you have to just manage where you think you'd use it. But bench boost ultimately, I don't think is the most powerful chip. And it's one where you always have big hopes for it, but it never really pans out. So just pick the best game week for you that you think would work. And then finally for the wild card. So we basically have a mini wild card with the 5 free transfers. I know a lot of us have been very naughty in using a bunch of them already. I've used 1 thus far, and I look not to use too many more, maybe 1 more for this game week. So if you have used your transfers, you're out of luck. But if you haven't, I would say you utilize your 5 free transfers as a way to use a mini wildcard. You can change a third of your team essentially and set yourself up well. And remember, every week, obviously, you get another free transfer. So if you're strategic, you can, use a bunch now and then also have some for the beginning of the new year, where, beginning of the new year, you're going to have maybe some players that are coming back from injury or into form, such as like a Gabriel or a Cole Palmer. So you want to have transfers available to take advantage of those opportunities that may present themselves. So now looking at the team and how it did in game week 15, I'm just going to share the highlights here because this game week wasn't really eventful other than Diaz's 14-pointer. Most of the players didn't return and didn't have strong game weeks. I had Haaland captain and he didn't come through for me. So game week 16 is definitely looking like another great opportunity to go against Haaland for me. I'm just ranked outside the top 13K in the world, so very pleased with that rank, but want to push on, want to find some more opportunities before the new year to really get players that can do well for me. I brought back in Szoboszlai into the squad for Grealish. I took a 1-week punt on Grealish. I picked the wrong Everton midfielder. I should have picked Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who I had a video on last week in terms of how he would be a great option for the viewer to put in to his squad. So that's a shame on me a moment. But in any case, I'm sort of happy with the way the team and the fixtures, how we're lined up. We have, the Arsenal double up, which could be a triple up if I take out Calafiori and put in another Arsenal defender. We have the 2 Brentford guys in Thiago and Collins against Leeds. And then we need to get to Munoz. We need to talk about Munoz, which we will do just right now in terms of options from a defensive standpoint, because I know a lot of you are looking at which defenders I should be considering now. All right, so midweek, the news broke out that Munoz needs knee surgery and he'll be out for a couple weeks. This is a great reason why to hold your transfers, because some things always come up in FPL. So for me, when I'm looking at potential replacements, if we look at transfer plans, there's a couple options. So if you don't have a Brentford defender, now would probably be a good time to take a look at them, given that they're playing Leeds. And then if you do, another name that I really like is Matty Cash. I've been mentioning how Aston Villa is in great form. Cash has been scoring goals. He's under 5.0 million. He has a fixture at home against Manchester United, which looks good next week. And he's away against West Ham this week, which I think is another great fixture for him. So, he can get involved on the offensive side of things, and he gives you somewhat of like a like-for-like replacement. Obviously, no one's Munoz, but an attacking fullback, which I think for me, I like to go that route rather than the DEFCON route. And then, the other options are the Man City defenders, whether that be Gvardiol or O'Reilly. O'Reilly, who a lot of people are having worries he might get arrested. It's Pep Roulette, you never know. But ultimately, I have Ruben Diaz in my squad, as we know. But a Man City defender on the road against a Crystal Palace defensive team wouldn't be a bad thing, because Crystal Palace is sort of tiring at this point in time. Offensively, they're not necessarily scoring a bunch of load of goals. And Man City looks like the juggernaut that we all expect them to be. They're rounding into form. So I would consider a Man City defender there. And that's sort of where I would leave things. Of course, another option, obviously outside of considering an Arsenal defender, which I'm sure most people are considering because they're playing Wolves. Other than that, you could hold Munoz, you could. I tend to like to play and get a little bit more information. So, holding him for 1 week, and if you're okay with the price drop, isn't the worst thing, because then we'll have a new fresh set of fixtures and we can look again and see what the best options are. So the only negative of that for my squad is I only have one bench player available in DCL who's been scoring as of late. So that's the reason why I may want to switch Munoz, just to give cover, because this period of time there's so many injuries, and we don't want to have anyone not being able to have a strong sub is actually really detrimental to the squad moving forward. Now let's take a quick peek at the Gameweek 16 FPL Green Line fixtures. So I have highlighted where Arsenal, Brentford, and Aston Villa have strong fixtures with Wolves, Leeds, and West Ham respectively. So those would be teams, of course, to target with premium assets in those squads that will play 90, that will have the highest chance of producing points there. And then we do have Fulham away to Burnley, which I think is a good fixture for them, especially defensively. The last fixture for some of their assets before they go off to AFCON. So someone like an Iwobi, who is quite integral to a lot of the offense that they generate and their attack. Maybe he can go off before he goes to AFCON. That's a good fixture for them. And then Chelsea's at home to Everton, which I think is, not necessarily a green fixture with the form that Chelsea's been in. They have a lot of players that, are sort of playing on tired legs. They need Cole Palmer back. They're in the Champions League, right? So they're using more of the squad. Overall, I do see Everton having quite a good opportunity in that game, but we'll see how that one unfolds as well. And those are the fixtures for this week in the FPL Green Line. So in terms of my team selection, let's take a look at how the team is lining up for Game Week 16. So we have Leno away to Burnley in goal. Good fixture for Fulham away on the road. In defense, we have Ballard at home to Newcastle. So Ballard has had some big hauls at home against Arsenal, and in the first game of the season, I forget who they played, but he's been strong at home. So really expecting him to have a strong game again at home for Sunderland. We have Collins, who I've mentioned, at home against Leeds, and currently we have Ruben Diaz, sort of a necessity because I don't have much bench cover, to play away at Crystal Palace. In the midfield, they have Odegaard at home against Wolves. Odegaard is one of those sneaky picks I picked up because I think he's the captain in Arsenal. He needs to play, and he's been getting good minutes in both the Premier League and Champions League. So he looks like someone who could put up some points, and he's been playing a lot better since coming back from injury. We have Rodgers away to West Ham. Saka, who currently has the captain's armband, at home to Wolves. Semenyo, my boy Semenyo, still in the squad. Still looking for him to cook, still looking for him to deliver. So we'll see what he can do against Manchester United away. And finally, Szoboszlai. I definitely brought him back in because he scored the penalty against Inter away in the Champions League. And, you know, he's been a good pick and one of the best and most consistent players for Liverpool for all that's worth. But he's going to be in the squad. I think it's a good fixture for him against Brighton at home. And then, you know, up front, we have the same two we've had for many, many weeks. And Thiago at home to Leeds, and then Holland away, currently with the vice captain armband, away to Crystal Palace. And then on the bench, you know, some changes there maybe needed to give more bench cover. And like I mentioned earlier, getting in another defender, as we have Calvert-Lewin away to Brentford, and then two players who can't play this week in Munoz with the injury, and then Calafiori on the yellow card suspension in my squad. We're almost there to another game week, and I think it's going to be one of transition, especially with the 5 free transfers that so many of us have already used. But, you know, let's look and see what happens. And hopefully, you know, we all get green arrows this week, as I know a lot of us had gone and made a lot of changes. If you like what you're seeing in this video, please like and subscribe below. And I will see you again in the next video. Bye for now.